Today I'm here with Jennifer, the Happy Maverick, who I met online. And I love her because we are very different in many ways, but we're also very alike. She doesn't have children. I have children, but we both think it's okay to be the other person and have that choice. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, Lorraine. Thank you so much for having me here today. I've been following you for a couple of years now, and just as you said, it is so true. We are so similar in so many ways, and other ways not. And as you mentioned, my name is Jennifer, and I go by the Happy Maverick, and I am 63 now. I'm single. I've never been married. I'm child free, and my goal is to really break the single stigma that still exists in our society today. And as you said, and as we're going to talk about, I think the myth is that we really are so similar. I mean, I'm not living a life that is that much different than anybody else's, and yet somehow we're kind of thought of as being like these sad and miserable people living just a terrible life. And I'm here to show people otherwise.
And you do show it. I have a sister who is single at the moment. She is childless almost by choice. I would say by choice. And she
Mhm.
is the best aunt and godmother to my children. And I see her life and I see her being happy and fulfilled. She is dating here and there, but at this
Mhm.
point she's 59. She just turned 59. She is not into taking care of anybody. She's like, I'm not going to take care of anyone. And so if she ever has a partner again, she's saying this person has to have his ish together. And,
Yeah,
so tell me a little
yeah.
bit more about why you started your Instagram account, when you started it, and exactly what you were talking about right now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I do want to mention that I think that one of the things that's interesting, like about your sister, is that it's interesting how people think that it's a lonely life. It's just redirected. Your energy and your love is directed in different places than it might be if you were, married or in a serious relationship and had kids. For example, I feel like I'm able to put a lot of energy into my mom, who's 90
Mhm.
years old, and do things for her, like she's really old now, but I was able to take her on some really fantastic trips, prior to her being where she is now, in her 80s, 70s, and 80s, that if I had kids, like that never would have happened. I wouldn't have been taking her on a cruise to Alaska or, taking her to Europe. I would have been putting that time, energy, and money into my kids, right? So it's different. So what you just mentioned about why I decided to do this is, I have been single. I dated when I was younger. So just to be
Mhm.
clear,
Mhm.
I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I always thought, oh, I'll get married and have kids. And I dreamed of, a wedding and all that, like every other girl pretty much back then did. And I dated, in my teens and 20s and even 30s. And through that process, I realized, I did my work on myself, and I realized I wasn't making very good choices in the guys I was dating. And, they say to, right? And then when I realized that and really kind of next leveled it, I realized I believe in taking responsibility for your life and where you are. And I realized that for me, I really didn't want to be in a relationship. I thought I wanted to be in a relationship because it's what you do, but I'm actually a very independent person, and I'm not very good at compromise and things like that. So I realized, I think I'm making poor choices because I'm choosing guys that really aren't ideal for being in relationships. And in fact, when I did date guys that were the ideal guy that I should be taken seriously, I lost interest in them very quickly. They were a little bit too much into my life. Like I like my space. I'm like, no, I want to do my own thing. I don't need you asking me all the time, what are you doing? Can I do it with you? It's just all that. So it was a process for me. And it wasn't really until my late 30s, early 40s that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to stop dating and just enjoy my life and make the most of it. And that also meant not having kids because it wasn't like I made a decision early on that I didn't want kids. That was kind of part of the package. You get married, you have kids, right? And I just realized I wouldn't be happy as a single parent. So that wasn't going to be an option again for kind of the same reasons. I like my space. Like I just knew it would be too much for me to handle to be a single parent. So, so that was a choice, you know, due to circumstances, right? That I decided I wasn't going to have kids. But once I did that, and I really just focused on enjoying my life, I realized my life came together for me and I really became really happy and content. And I set goals for myself. A lot of it was on my career, you know, because I realized I'm gonna have to take care of myself financially, right? If I don't have a partner. So I really focused on my career and it came together in a few years. And I
What
set
was your career?
so I got into sales and I got into sales late. I mean, I really didn't have my act together until my late 30s, which just goes to show too, you can do anything you want at any time in your life. Because I always supported myself. I moved out when I was 18 and I always supported myself, but I never really had a career. I waitressed, I bartended, I did things, that paid my bills. But when I realized, oh my God, I'm going to be single the rest of my life, I need a career. Um, I got into sales. I set goals on what I wanted. So I focused, that's the other thing. As a single person with no kids, you can really focus on your career. And I was able to do that. And I did very well. I became very successful in sales in my career. I was a top performer in my industry. And I actually am company. And I do attribute that to being single and not having kids. I didn't have, I was able to really focus. I wanted to buy my own house. That was always a dream, is to have my own house. And so I was able to buy my own home. And I also wanted to travel. Like that was kind of my vision for my future and to live comfortably. And so I was able to make that happen to the point that I semi-retired when I was 60. So that's the background on that. But anyway, through all that, I realized when I really gave up dating, and rather than when people would ask, oh, are you single? I'm like, no, I'm single and I'm happy being single. Like, you have to give that excuse. And I'm happy. It's all right. Don't feel sorry for me. And I just realized there's still such a stigma in our society about being single, and so I just realized a couple years ago when I did retire that I wanted to change that image of what it looks like to be single, and especially later in life, because there are a lot of people now that are younger that are thinking, should I get married? Should I have kids? It's a big thing right now, right? So I'm just an example of what your life can look like if you decide you're not going to follow the society norms.
And I think that's wonderful because a lot of the things, I'm 61, I just turned 61, so we're more or less the same age. But I
Yeah.
was raised in Spain
Mhm.
mostly, even though I lived my first childhood here in the States. But the thing is, like, because I come from a divorce, a little bit of a traumatic divorce, like after the age of 5, I never saw my mom again until the age of 12. I did not want that for my kids. And I always thought, I want to build my own family. So from a really young age, I was drawn to babies. I had two younger siblings from my dad's second marriage, and I just wanted to have babies. And the thing in my brain was, if I don't have kids by 25, because that's my dad's 24 years older than me, I thought that was a cutoff. I'm not having children.
Wow.
I made the worst choices of men talking about that. So a guy that had kids and didn't want more, I thought I would change his mind. And then anyhow, I did not have children until 37 and 40. So I have actually lived most of my life without children. So I know what that's like,
Yes.
and the rest of it with children. And by the age of 35, I really knew I didn't care if I had a significant other at that point. I really wanted kids, and I did want them single, however, in vitro. I didn't care how adopted, whatever, but I did want that. But that led to taking responsibility for my choices, is that I ended up marrying someone who was not ready to be a husband or a father.
Right. Yeah.
But it was that thinking about it now, of course, there's nothing like hindsight. But of course, if I hadn't married him, then I wouldn't have the kids I have now. If
Right.
if I hadn't married him, I wouldn't be in the United States because we moved here because of him. And then eventually I divorced, and I wouldn't have met the love of my life,
Yes.
Phil, who I post a lot about in social media,
Yeah.
and we've
Great.
been together for almost 15 years. And we both made the family that we always wanted. It just looked a little different from what we each wanted. So we have this
Right.
blended family. But to your point of being happier or supported, like I have never been supported by a man. So being with a man does not mean that you don't have to
That's
work.
that's a good point.
And well, these are these myths, like I've
Yeah.
never, and first of all, because I like to work, and
Yeah.
second, because the men I've been with by some whatever serendipity are people who don't make a lot of money, and that's
Right.
just how it is.
Yeah.
And Phil and me right now, I think I would even say I'm making more money than he is. So it's, although he works with me, but it's like a companionship. And with Phil and me, it's like we are very compatible in very many ways.
Mhm.
But I mean, knock on wood, I have thought, wow, if something happened to him, or if something happened to me, I don't know what he would do. But I was like, I don't know if I could, if I could be with someone again, or even if it
Yeah.
could be a man, at this point in my life. I'm not kidding. I'm like, women have this other energy that men don't. And then the last thing that I will touch upon is the thing about the kids. I love being a mother. I wanted it. I really wanted it. And I strongly believe that anybody who doesn't want to have children shouldn't have them. Because
Mm.
why? I mean, it's
Right.
hard enough when you love them and you want them. It's
Right.
hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And it's not only because, like, last week I posted online that my daughter, she is my accident prone daughter. You have no idea how many times we've been at the ER since she was not even a year old. And every time that she's almost about, she's cheated death. She's just had so many accidents. So first of all, there's that, the anguish. Like, not only do I have to worry about me, and my husband and my dad and all this, my sister, who's also like another daughter and mother at the same time, but the three kids. On
Hmm.
top of that, on top of that, when you have babies, you think you really don't consider, I mean, you do, but you don't, that one day they'll be teenagers. And we have given these three children our time and attention as best as we have been able to as divorced parents.
Right.
But also, I was a very conscious mother. Like, I really, really wanted to be a good mother, like be involved. However, the challenges that we have had with each one of them, just one of them would kill many people, emotionally.
Maybe.
So often, I remember one of the challenges we were going through with one of the kids, and that evening we had dinner with a couple, friends of ours who don't have children. And the first thing I said when I sat down and I ordered a couple beers, I think one after the other, and I said, you guys are so lucky that you don't have children. So I love them, but it is hard. And I don't know why people pressure other people to say you should have children. Like, why? And I'm a
Yeah.
mother,
Right.
but
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's a really good point when you think about it too. Like, why are you like, I don't want to say forcing all those. It seems like some families, especially in conservative families, right? They do kind of, it's like not forcing, you can't force somebody, but the pressure to
yeah.
have a kid, it's like, why are you doing that? That's going to be a lot of anguish. If that person is questioning whether they even want to have kids, maybe you should back off on that for that reason. They're telling you something, right? Like, they're not maybe suited for that.
And I agree. And,
So,
and but it's the same thing as what you were saying about being married. Like, when I did want to be married, but more for, I don't know, responsibility, and especially if you have
yeah,
kids. And
yeah,
even with Phil, we married 4 years into the relationship, but it was because the kids were saying, like, they would be asked, is that your parent? And they're like, no, they're just dating. We were living together.
Yeah, right.
This is my almost half sister. And then we're like, no, we can't have this. We're a family. I
Family,
don't
yeah.
want to go to the school to talk to my stepson's teacher and say I'm Finn's mom's
Yeah,
girlfriend.
yeah, right.
No, it
Be
just
like,
didn't sound. So I don't know. It was, and I'm not saying this is the correct thing to do. I'm just saying that's how we felt about it
right.
for the kids. But it's so silly, even with how would I explain this? When I had kids, I was an older mom. Like it was appalling that I had my first kid at 37 and the second one at 40. Now that's normal. I
Yes.
mean, having your first kid at 40 some is normal.
Yeah,
So I'm
I
not
know.
an older mom anymore.
Right. Yeah, I know, right? It's changed.
So, but it also, again, it enabled me to experience life on my own and then 23 years of being a mom. So I've been 37 not a mom, 23 years a mom. And I loved both experiences.
Yeah.
Again, I am grateful I had them only because it was a very, very strong, go figure why, biological, emotional, I don't know,
Yes.
desire that I had.
Yeah.
But if you
So,
don't have it, like my sister doesn't have it, like,
yeah. Yeah. And I love kids too. That's the thing. It's not like I don't. I love them. I think they're great. I just like I love being around my friends' kids, and
mm-hmm,
I go home. So I don't have any responsibilities. But you know what, Lorraine, is interesting too. Through just being on social media, there's this whole thing about women in midlife, right? And
mm-hmm.
this thing that they go through because they've devoted their whole time and energy to their family. And I'm wondering, I'm going to ask you, do you feel like because you waited till you were older that you haven't had that happen to you? Because what's interesting for me is this whole, the midlife thing with women. I'm like, I don't,
Empty
I,
nesting.
I never went through it because
Yeah.
I'm just living the same life I always have.
Well, I think for me, because the empty nest syndrome is, I had several things. One, that I was older, so I did
Yeah,
know what it was like to
exactly.
live. And I thought, look, my life isn't going to stop. I was a journalist, an author, and I was a translator. I never
Right.
stopped working. I would take my kids
Yes.
to everything. I said, I'm not young that I can wait for them to grow up to continue. I just have to
Right.
continue. So they
Right.
got used to that. Second, after I separated, it was common for Phil and myself, or myself, if I was not when I hadn't met him, to be away from my children. So I could have a whole week, or there could be a month that their dad took them to Spain
Right.
or something. And I
Yes.
I didn't like it, but I didn't like to be away from them for that long,
Mhm.
but I reframed the whole thing because it was always about them having the experience. And then I would work my butt off when they weren't
Right.
with me so that I could be fully present for them.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's why I think the one that hit me the hardest was my eldest, but just because I had been with her for 18 years and suddenly
Yeah.
she's off and she's in California and she
Yeah.
went with my sister who has no kids and went to live with her and then started living her life. But we're really close. So I have a
Mhm.
really good relationship with my kids. And I don't feel purposeless. And I don't feel because my career, because everything is
Yeah.
still going,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now Phil and I are realizing, wow, we can actually, I mean, we have a dog, so now we have to, which is another thing that to take care of, so
Right.
we have to have the neighbors take care of the dog, and that way we can go on cruises or trips or
Yeah.
whatever. And so that is, but yeah, I cannot relate to midlife women who say they're knocked off their feet and they don't have a purpose. That's not me.
Yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah.
Not at
Maybe.
all. Zero. And I feel bad because a lot of these women did the 100% parenting, or they identified strongly with that role. And for me, I was like, yes, I'm a mom, but at
Mhm.
first I'm a woman.
Yeah.
Then I'm a mother, and then I'm a
Right.
daughter and a friend and a wife or a companion or what have you.
Yeah.
I think if you don't have that strong sense of self,
Yeah.
then
Exactly.
anything can knock you off your feet, including the
That's right.
kids leaving. Yeah.
And I think that that brings up a good point too. When I see these women or they follow me or whatever, because I would like to think I am a role model for them as well, right? It's just kind of embrace that time, right? Kind of like I did is like, okay, I'm going to be single. Like that's a great time that you are finally able to get to know yourself. Like how exciting is that? Good for you that you spend all that time raising your kids and a family, and that's awesome you did that. But embrace where you are now and just figure out what do you like to do. It can be a very exciting time, rather than sad. I understand you're having to, as an empty nester or whatever, you're having to let go and all that, but it's also, it's your
But
time.
you know what? It's also rediscovering your children. Like now, when we went to visit my eldest in Lake Tahoe, she's there with her girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
I consider her girlfriend my third, fourth child,
Yeah.
thankfully, she's really nice. But the point is rediscovering your kids as adults. So now we're doing
Yes.
different things together. And I
Yeah.
think it's also very exciting to see them grow and do their thing. And
Yep.
then because I'm a person who's always worked on myself a lot to with more or less success, of course, when I was younger, I wasn't so successful at working on myself, but the reality is that as someone who tries to be a better person and better for people around me, I have
Right.
never ever cried to my kids on the phone, I miss you, or I could cry by myself, like because I was missing
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
daughter. But I never said don't leave. I just said finish high school, or I don't care if you're 100, you're not leaving. But that's it. And now she's going
Yeah.
back to school to be a nurse. And, so I'm very
Oh,
happy about that. But I never wanted to micromanage their life. I never, I don't know. It's just
that's
not the
good.
language I speak. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's good. My mom was like that too. I know because she was a single parent. And so, I have an older sister. She moved out, and then I moved out as soon as I turned 18. And I was like, I'm out of here. I'm on my own, and I know it had to have been just devastating for her. I remember when I moved to San Francisco, right? And I
Hmm.
remember, and I remember her not, she took me there or whatever and dropped me off. And I remember her not wanting to leave. Yeah, it must have been so hard to realize, oh my God, this is it. I'm dropping her off. She's on her own and I'm going back to be by myself. But she never expressed any, sadness. Well, I could kind of see it, obviously, but you know what I mean? She wasn't
Hmm.
vocal about it. She did her best just to be positive and let me go and do my thing. And that's what being a good parent is all about, right? You have to let somebody find themselves. So,
It is, and I find it sad when I see women who say, like there's someone I know online. I've never met the person in person or or not even chatted like this. And she's very attached to her kids who are living in a different country. And she's like, they're so far, and I'm so sad. And I'm like, oh, I don't know what to tell you because my daughter left 5 years ago to the other side, and there was COVID. I couldn't see her. I couldn't travel.
yeah,
So and my dad, imagine, he's in Spain, I'm here. He left Spain, and that's why I'm half American because he left Spain after the war, got his degree in the States, got married here, and that's why my sister and I are bilingual and all that
yeah,
too.
it's great too.
But however, what I mean is that learning to detach from that is important. And then the other part is this thing about the partners or feeling that, I mean, in my former marriage, which was a big mistake, but I'm glad I had the kids and there are no mistakes in
That's
retrospect,
right. It all happens for a reason.
honestly. However, I was very lonely in that relationship. I did not feel reciprocated. This person was not into the family. He was always out. I mean, I have so many red flags. I don't think he love bombed me at the beginning, and then that was it. And I mean, there was so many things like getting home at 7 in the morning in Spain. That's how late or early people party for, and never at home, and so many things. And I'm like, how did I anyhow? Well, first of all, how did I stay as long as I did? But at the same time, it was this loneliness of walking through the door and knowing there's someone there that you really know you shouldn't be with. That is very lonely.
That is, and in fact, I can relate to some extent, not to that extreme, but there were relationships that I was in that I felt that way. I mean, and that's why another reason why I'm happy being single is like I feel less lonely than I did in some of my relationships.
Yep, yep, yep. Another thing is like my sister says when she has a date or somebody comes to apartment, they're like, wait a minute, do you have a cleaner? Like we're the opposite. I'm messy. If I turn this around, this is a disaster. But my sister is like Crate and Barrel house. And it looks like you have a Crate and Barrel house. And she likes it that way, you know? And she's like, she had a boyfriend and the guy loved all these colorful things. And she's like, oh no, I can't do this. Like, I can't move in with this guy. This is just terrible. And she,
Right.
oh my gosh. And she cherishes her time alone so very much.
I do too. I love my time at home alone. I'm into houses. That's kind of my
Mm,
thing. I
hmm.
just have my office behind. It's not too exciting, but I do love my space and my home, and it's very adult. I mean, kids come over and I'm like realizing, oh, this is not a kid-friendly house. You know, I have glass tables, glass crystal, all these things in my home, but it is my home and I love being there and I'm never lonely. It's the most bizarre thing. I mean, there's times where I need to get out and socialize because I've been here a little too long. This isn't healthy. But I mean, I'm happy. And I'll tell you, I love like at night sometimes just when I'm watching TV, I'm like, I am so freaking happy because I'm watching exactly what I want to be watching. And it's nice, It's just nice having my own space.
Well, I'll tell you that although I'm happily married, of course, every relationship has its ups and downs and miscommunications. And again, having three children, none of them in common, is challenging. But
Yeah.
I think we have really good communication. And we even went to a therapist because we were having issues with one of the kids that were really messing with the whole family. And the therapist said, like, basically, why are you here? And we deflect a lot of the things with humor. So she's like, it looks like you guys, like, you know each other, you know yourselves, so maybe you don't have to pay me and just talk at home, which was great. However, yesterday Phil left to see his mom because she's in Miami and she had cancer and he wants to see her every so often.
Yeah.
And he forgot it was his birthday yesterday. And suddenly I was like, oh my goodness, that's great. I even told him, we know this. Like when he's not here, like he cooks basically. He cooks more than I do. So,
Oh, that's nice.
it's not like I cook for him. But however, he likes to have dinner at a certain time and he likes the routine and all that. I don't. Like last night, I don't know what time I had dinner. I think I
Yeah.
ate something before 7, then afterwards at 9. I worked until 1 in the morning, which is when I am more creative.
Oh,
Then this morning I got up to do something and the dog can sleep in the room because he's not there and the dog won't bother him. So there's all these things that, and then in September, I'm going to be gone for a week. And I said, you don't have to put up with me for that week and my dreams and my problems. And so I think it's nice, also to have to know that you can be away from that person and be perfectly happy.
yeah,
And in fact, when Phil travels, we rarely talk on the phone, or if I travel, we
right.
text, but it's
Uh-huh.
like I don't have to be on the
Yeah.
phone. Like I see other, and I feel a little bad because I see other women like, oh, I'm talking to my boyfriend or my husband or whatever. And I'm like, I haven't, like, like it's good night, good morning, is everything okay? That's it. But I feel it's a nice break for everyone.
Right. I agree. And you hit it with that. I don't get that either. I don't need to be talking to somebody all the time. Now I'm doing this. I'm thinking of doing this. Like, no.
I mean, Phil gets
Is it
enough of that
okay?
already because, like, I don't have a woman in the house to tell them my silly things of I bought these joggers. Do you think they look better? Like, and he has to put up with all that crap. And I think it's nice when you're not home and he can write. He's a writer, so he writes his books without
Yeah.
interruption, or works on his car, or does whatever
Yeah.
the hell he wants.
Yeah.
And then also we have separate interests. Like sometimes people say, "Oh, like I love to walk on the beach." He hates it. Like hates it. He'll
I
go with me
hate it.
like
I know.
well, he could be there for like 15, 20 minutes, maybe
Yeah.
half
I
an
mean,
hour, but I
yeah.
could be there for the whole day.
Yeah.
And so we have these things where, okay, so if I go to the beach and I say, he's like, is it going to be like 2 hours? I said, okay, if you come, I'll do whatever you want, like half an hour, fine. But
Yeah.
really deep down, I want to be there the whole day. So what we do is that we have our own separate things that we like to do, and we do them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right.
And then there are things that we do together. Like I signed us
Yeah.
up both to improv and to acting and stuff like that because we needed to get the heck out of the house because we work here, we live here, we see
Yeah.
each other here. And that was a good thing to do together.
Yeah.
But it's terrible when people think that someone, and I was just asked this recently. I'm really good at not finishing sentences and starting another one.
Me too.
Um, and someone asked me, "Are you lonely?" And I said, "Ever feel lonely?" And I said, "Honestly, no, because I can be alone, but and by choice, I love being alone. But like you, I need to get out so I don't go nuts and it's unhealthy and
Yeah.
all that. But at the same time, I know that someone is a call away, a text away.
Yeah.
Like if I really want to, from the kids to a friend to my dad to someone online,
Yeah.
I have it's a choice, and I think that's very
Yeah.
important.
I agree. And I think that's also a good point about being single and the whole lonely thing. Is I have tons of people I can reach out to, friends and family. It's not, there's just this old misconception about, a spinster or whatever, right? That
I
they're just
hate that.
home alone, no friends. Like, I have a very full life here, people. Like, I can, if I'm having a problem or feel like I need to talk to somebody, depending on what it is, I can pick and choose who's the right person to talk to for this, right? Like, I have a plethora of people in my life. It's not like I'm just by myself.
Do you
Ooh,
think, and I was just thinking this, do you think it makes people uncomfortable? Because it's
yeah.
like, so if somebody gets divorced, for example, and I can be
Uh-huh.
like, oh my God, are we next?
Yeah.
Or like somebody dies. She says, me, what did they die of? I want to know
Yeah.
because is it going to be me next?
Yeah.
Do you think, like, why are married? I'm assuming it's women because I don't know if men are telling you why aren't you married or why aren't
It's
you
men more.
what?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So I think people uh, see me as a threat. I'm a threat because and for men, not so much women. For men, I'm a threat because I'm challenging how they would, you know, the old stereotype, right, of a domineering male being in control and having a wife. But let me put this another way.
Hmm.
I think that in general, women, if you could remove finances from it, because there is a problem a lot of times with anybody being single, right? Is the finance, and especially for women. Um, Although that's changing, luckily, right? But financially, I think if women could afford to take care of themselves, they'd be much more likely to be happy and single, whereas men really need somebody to take care of them. So I'm a threat to men. And so when I get negative comments about my lifestyle, it's 95% of the time from a male who's I know is threatened by me because it's a threat, even though they don't say it that way. I mean, they're mean about it, right? It's like because I'm threatening your way of living. Um, and I think also when women I think sometimes it's hard for me to word things properly, honestly, so that I'm not trying to say my life is better. That's not it. It's about living, I always say living your best life, right? And
Hmm.
what does that mean to you? So for me, living my best life is being single and not having kids. Whereas for you, you made the right choice. You wanted to have kids and you're happy in a relationship and you have a great guy, by the way. I mean,
Thank you. I think
yeah,
so too.
which is a big part of it, right? I
It
mean,
is,
it's not about
yes.
just having a partner, it's about
No,
having the right partner.
right.
But I think also subconsciously, people that aren't in happy relationships have a hard time seeing somebody being happy in a lifestyle that they're like then thinking, oh, maybe I should have done that, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
oh, but they're afraid of it, or I don't know. I mean, I think it's different for everybody, but I definitely feel like I know for a fact the negative comments I get, they come from men, and I know it's because I'm a threat.
Do they happen in person, online?
It's online. Like it's not so much on Instagram. Instagram is such a supportive environment, but
I agree.
every now and then I've posted some things. I got a lot of negativity. But some other social media platforms, when I make comments about being happy and single and over 60 and not having kids, yeah, you get some really negative things. It's interesting.
It's definitely interesting, and I will never understand it, quite honestly. I think that's actually why there are unhappy families and divorces, and
Absolutely.
it's because we do think, oh my goodness, by this age I should have done this and that and the other. And I felt almost like it was too late for me back in the day, and maybe it wasn't, and
Yeah.
maybe I would have made a better choice. Who knows? I have no idea about the person I was with. But I do think it's changing, and I think the younger generations are they're giving themselves so many more opportunities to choose how they are in the world at every possible level that we
Yeah.
couldn't even have dreamed of,
Yes.
that it might not be a problem for them to
I hope
choose.
so. As long as, politics don't get in
I
the way,
know. I
right?
know. I know.
It's all evolution of humans, right? Because it was for so long that you really needed a family, the traditional family, to support each other, and everybody had their roles and things like that. And it is like everything else now rapidly changing, right? I mean, everything's just this fast forward in our lives right now with technology and everything. And um, just the traditional family isn't necessary. I'm not
Mhm.
saying not 100% necessary. Obviously, we do need families. We need to keep moving forward. We can't just, oh, no kids, that's it. Everybody dies off. That's the end of civilization. But you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
not, we don't, I don't need a husband to financially take care of me. And kids, there's that saying about kids, and well, what are you going to do when you grow old? Who's going to take care of you? And like, which is total bullshit.
I
That to me is the most self-centered statement I've ever heard. Like, you're going to have a kid, so you have somebody to take care of you. There's other ways of dealing with getting old now. I already have my plan kind of figured out for myself, and it is what it is. I accept my life. I accept where I am. I'm not gonna, have a kid just so that I can do that. So it's just, we're all evolving. Society is evolving, and
I'll tell you, my mother-in-law, Phil's mother, has three children, and her husband passed away. He was much older than she was a few years ago. And she already has everything in place because she doesn't want to bother her children.
right,
And she had
exactly.
cancer, and she's now in a wheelchair, and pays for help. And,
Uh-huh.
not to say that her kids won't help her out, but she doesn't want to be a burden. So she's
Right.
already scoped out where she's going. And yeah, and I think that's very smart,
Yeah.
because there's nothing that I can think more horrifying than have my kids come and take care of me if I can't take care of myself.
Yeah.
That's not in my plans to
Right.
mess their life up any further.
Right.
It's like, do you have any coaching, or do you provide anything for women, or are you just doing, not just, sorry, let me reword that, and I'll let
No,
it be
that's all
more.
right. I know what you're
Yeah, that
saying.
sounds terrible. No, do you offer coaching for women in general over some subject of your interest?
That is a great question. No, I don't. Maybe it is something I should consider, but I don't have a coaching background. But you know what? I like helping people. So maybe it's something I need to think about. So
And
right
what
now,
are
really, I'm just all on social media, just kind of showing my life, as best I can. And this is what it looks like to be 63, single and child free, for me anyway.
And I think it's fabulous. I mean, I was tremendously attracted by you. I forget how I came across your profile, but I was like, wow, that's so cool. And I don't know why some people would feel threatened by that, or say, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's like, why the hell not? Like, moms, we commiserate so much about the dark sides of parenting, which there are many. And we have that. But, I don't know. I just think it's interesting, to say the
Well,
least,
thank you.
Yeah, no, no, I mean, because deep down we have the same values, It's like we
Exactly.
feel that everybody should be able to choose and there's nothing wrong with doing this or doing that. And is there a plan, and this is a very superficial, silly question, but like if you imagine you meet someone and you're like, oh my God, swept off your feet, like is that something that could happen without you looking for it? And then what would
Um,
happen with your Instagram?
I guess it'd just be part of my Instagram, right? I mean, seriously, it's like you wouldn't believe what happened. I met somebody.
That would be
I,
a plot twist.
right, exactly. I think I get asked this every now and then, again from guys.
Oh
Like,
my
what would
goodness.
it take?
Well, I'm
And
not asking that. I'm just saying if it happened,
if
imagine.
it, okay, but I just want to say, but I do want to answer that if,
Okay.
what would it take? Because that is kind of a lot. Because it's like, I am happy with my life. So do I want to jeopardize that? I mean, I guess it would have to be a very slow moving relationship, very slow easing into being in a relationship, right? And I do see some value in it, honestly, because I think, you know, I think as I grow older, maybe having a companion that I've never needed before, you know, maybe, and I've always said this actually, maybe when I get older, maybe when I get older, it's like, but I also say that about pets and I still don't have pets when I get older. So, so anything's possible, right? It really would have to be the right person and they'd have to really understand where I'm coming from and they'd have to know that going to be a very slow process. So I don't think I answered your question. Was it directed more to
Well,
social?
what would you do? Like, would you continue your social media?
Yeah, I think I would. I think I would again because, like you said, it's a good plot twist, right? I mean, it's life. I'm sharing my life, so it would be part of it. And honestly, people would they would probably love it. Oh my God, I'm so happy for you.
I
Like,
told
but then
you.
again,
I
but you know
told you.
what? Here's the thing that's so funny about this because I get people say this every now and then. It's like, oh, but I think if you met the right person, it's like, but you're not hearing me.
Yeah.
When you don't get it. Like I just feel that way a lot. Like you're not hearing me. If you're still thinking, and I'm talking people close to me say this
Yeah.
sometimes.
Oh no, I get it
If
because
you met the
my
right
my s-
person
my
and
sister gets it. But it's
yeah,
like I share once in a while, like fill in my story because we both wanted to have a family and we both wanted it. It was very bizarre that we met at the stage that we did, having kids young, both of us, and so
yeah,
many things that had to come together for that to happen. And
yeah,
honestly, really have a good, fulfilling relationship again that
yeah,
we work at.
yeah,
And so my words are for people who are wishing for that to
yeah,
say it's not too late. It's not for someone who wants to be by themselves.
right.
And it's like you should be with a person. No, you shouldn't.
Yeah,
if I hadn't met Phil, maybe I wouldn't be with anyone.
that's
It's
right.
just
And you know what? That is 100% true. I mean, I think that anything can happen in your life at any age if you're open to it. And maybe that's the difference too. I'm not really that open to it, right? So
well, not
I'm
only
not
aren't
open
you
to it.
open to it, you're not looking for it. Like I was
Yeah,
more than open. I wanted it. And I think it's
yeah,
a very different thing. It's
yeah,
something, it was like a goal of mine as a kid. And I don't know if this is healthy or unhealthy or what, but it just was. And it didn't happen. And my dad couldn't stand any of my boyfriends or the husband. Not he could see through them like, "Ah." And
yeah,
Phil is the first guy. Also, my dad writes. Phil writes. His father was a
yeah. Oh
journalist.
yeah,
There's a lot of stuff in common. And my dad loves Phil, and that's like for me, it's like completion. It
yeah,
was I managed to get a good.
yeah. You know, Also, you just brought something up about age, and I think this is a big part of too. What we have in common on our social media is that it's just never too late. Anything is still possible. I might still have a whole nother career or two in me. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like I'm open to things. Somebody asked me on
Yeah.
a podcast the other day, a younger single gal, like, where do you see yourself in 20 years? And the way she said it was kind of sad. Like I'm like, What are you talking about? Like, I've got a
What?
few great years left in me. 63 now, me is not 63 50 years ago, right? We're different. We're both healthy. We take care of ourselves. I'm not slowing down, maybe a little bit, but really not much. I mean, I still have goals. There's still, I have a sense of adventure. I'm curious. I'm always up for trying new things. So it's like, it's all good. The future is good, and you're not too old. If you want to find somebody and you're in your 50s or 60s, go for it. And I will tell you this, to the women, there's a lot of guys out there that are looking. I know because they follow me, right? It's like, and some of them are very nice, I can tell. And it's
Oh,
like, sorry, I'm not interested, but they're out there, they're looking. I mean, they're looking
wow.
and they're so desperate, they're looking on social media. Seriously, not on dating.
Oh my God,
I
no,
don't know,
that's
they
funny.
must be
That's
doing
funny.
everything, dating apps, this, everything.
Yeah, yeah. No,
And just,
that
yeah,
is funny because at least in the dating app, you know that there's other people out there doing the same thing. But on
yeah.
social media, I'll tell you something very bizarre is that Phil and I launched this new handle called Unlikely Detours, where we want to do travel as an older couple and empty
Uh-huh.
nesters. And we're getting a bunch of requests to be swingers with couples.
Oh my God, that's so
And
funny.
I'm like, what? What energy am I putting out there that this is what we're getting? I don't know if it's a hashtag I'm using. I don't know if it's the fact that because there are younger people who ask us also. It's bizarre. I mean, like
That's
30
so,
years old. I'm like, you
that's a
want
compliment though, right?
well, I
Like
don't
they just
know.
want to
I
hook
mean,
up with you.
who knows? But it was like, really? Okay, then. I mean, I have people I know who do that. That's fine. It's just not my jam.
Yeah, don't
But
like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have nothing against it, just not for me. But gee, and I agree with you. I feel, I feel, let me finish the sentence. I feel that my best days are not behind me. And I truly believe it. Like I don't rest on my laurels. I don't think, well, I've already done a lot of stuff I've done. People online don't even know. Like I've published a bunch of books. I was an author. And I'm not saying, okay, I am an author, but I don't have a book in me right now, so I don't really identify with that label at the moment.
Yeah.
So, but it's like we've had, as you said, many lives in this life
Uh-huh.
already, and I
Yeah,
don't see why not have more
exactly.
new ones. A lot of older women, even the women that we're seeing modeling at 80 or 70 some, they started some of them in their 60s
Mhm.
and they started. So
Yep.
imagine we're still not there, and
Yep.
and I mean modeling or doing anything else for that
Right.
matter. Like Ginny McCall, who I also had the pleasure of talking to. She's an American Ninja Warrior. She did her first pull up and she inspired me to start trying. At I forget if it was 61. She's tried at 61, got it at 62, and at 72 or 73, she's the oldest female athlete to have completed an obstacle course on American Ninja Warrior, and she's in the Guinness Book World of
Wow,
Records.
that's cool.
And to me, those are the women I follow. I don't follow the
Yeah.
ones complaining or saying, "Oh my gosh, my life is over." And no,
Yeah,
no, thank
exactly.
you. No,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah.
Jennifer, where can people find you?
So I'm on Instagram is my main social media platform, Jennifer the Happy Maverick. I'm also on TikTok and YouTube.
Do you have a blog?
I don't right now. I had one and I stopped it. So maybe at some point I'll get it going, especially if I decide to be a what
Coach.
coach.
I think you should. And
Thank you.
probably even for younger women, just women in general who want to, because the stigma, everything that we've already talked about, that, it's your life, your choice.
Yeah,
My life, my choice, right?
that's right.
Well,
Be
thank
careful
you.
what you say now, but that's right.
I know, I know. Thank you, Jennifer. It's been a pleasure and see
Thank
you
you.
on Instagram.
Thank you. The pleasure's mine. Take care.